Okay, now it's moving to diffusion theory and development theories. It's a really important part of the immediate effects. And also the most frequently cited and used communication effect theories today. Let's talk about the diffusion of innovations. Actually, the full name of the theory is the full name of the theory is diffusion of innovations. But just we briefly say diffusion theories. It's actually, Rogers suggest in 1960s through his very important and influential books in the communication area, The Diffusion of Innovations. That's the title of the books, published in 1960s by the Everett Rogers. And then he actually suggests very broad and grand theories after summarize previous discussion about diffusion of innovations. But I want to give you a lot of historical contributions about these theories. It's just remember Ryan and Gross. Actually, not many people know these guys' names who for the first time suggest diffusion theories. A lot of people know Everett Rogers, but I'd like to actually say that you have to memorize Ryan and Gross of the students in Iowa State University, like you. Ryan Gross actually wrote about a little paper, like a class paper, and master thesis about the how Iowa farmers, actually they live in the Iowa State, right? It's Middle West in the United States, very small and country. It's small countryside of the states, but Iowa State University is actually located Ames, city name is Ames in Iowa, and two students named Ryan and Gross did a little story, a little research about how farmers in Iowa State, how farmers of Iowa State accept new technology, especially radio. So they examined the adoption of the radio by Iowa farmers, and then they reported diffusion of innovation for the first time, the concepts, in 1943. And then Rogers actually re-summarized and re-suggest the concept of the diffusion of innovation in 1960s in his book, Diffusion of Innovations. That's a little history. Why I'm saying this? Because Ryan and Gross are students, were students like you. So I strongly suggest each of you have a really good idea, brilliant idea about the communication field. Why don't you study? Why don't you write research and then announce the name of your concepts? You can contribute in our field. And then Rogers actually wrote his book in 1960s, and then these grand theories, diffusion of innovation, is not a small theories. It's grand, huge theories actually composed these four components, small theories. So I can ask that, hey, what are four small theories of the diffusion of innovation theories? That's actually right there. Innovation decision process, individual innovativeness theories, rate of adoptions, and perceived attributes. Okay? Now let's see, each small theories by actually 4 theories right here. Very first one of the diffusion of innovation theories. So we call the innovation decision process. And as you see right here, diffusion is a process. It happens over time, and most of the time seen as having 5 distinct stages. Okay. Why just think about situations. iPhone. This is new product. Okay, iPhone. So how do you accept, how do you adopt iPhone? That's scenario we think about. So most of the time, when I adopt new technology, when I adopt a new media device, actually you have to know first, whatever. And whatever channels, and from your friends, and through the media reports, and just happen to know, happen to see, just happen to hear new product has come out, and advertising, and just traveling, you observed somebody use that one. So whatever, what happens, you have to know first about the new device. That's the first stages, okay? Always, diffusion of innovation starts with knowing. And then, persuasion stage. You have to persuade yourself to buy new products. Or sometimes, your friends try to persuade other friends to buy new products. And sometimes the media persuade yourself, media persuade you to buy products. So, what kind of channel, it doesn't matter. You have to persuade yourself or other groups to make decision to adopt or diffuse of the new device. That's actually the second stage. Knowing, persuasion, and then decisions. Okay, I'll buy that, right? I'll buy that one. And I don't like that one. I don't want to buy that one. So you have to decide your decisions. And implementations. What implementation means? That's actually search for additional information. Search for additional information. Search for related informations. That's what we call implementation stage. To make final decisions. It's called confirmations. Knowing, persuasion, and the very first decision, and then you add additional information to guarantee and support for your decision. And then finally you confirm your decision to adopt a new device. So, this is common sense, right? This is common sense. Everybody talks about that kind of procedures. But Everett Rogers actually memorized, Rogers actually summarized this kind of 5 distinct stages. It always happens for people to adopt new technology or new device. So knowledge, persuasion, decision, implementation, confirmations. That's very first small theories. It's called innovation decision process. It's one of the 4 theories of the diffusion of innovation, grand theories. Okay? Yeah, that's just the very first part of the diffusion of innovations. Okay, this is another very important And also, very popular, terminology is called the early adopters. I don't know how many of you actually, familiar with early adopters, but the term early adopters actually came from Rogers' diffusion theories, right here. So individual innovativeness theories of the diffusion of innovations, this is actually distribution of the populations, okay? Distribution of the populations. What about Korea? That's almost 50 million people, right? Among the 50 million peoples, how many people actually belong to innovators, according to your Rogers? How many Koreans is actually belong to group of the innovators, according to your Rogers theories? 2.5%. Okay? 2.5% of the Koreans actually belong to the innovators. A lot of people actually question, is that correct? And is that really, reliable informations and findings? Nobody knows that. Nobody actually knows what Rogers assumed that is correct, because Rogers actually suggests these models as our theories. But I don't care about specific numbers, okay? But a lot of exams actually ask a specific number of percentage, but I'm not asking specific numbers. But important thing is right here. Most of the population, whatever, in Korea is actually 50 million people. Among the 50 million people, they actually belong to one of these 5 groups: innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggard. So, I'm not sure about how much this kind of the diffusion of innovation model is really correct in explaining today, but we have to know, we have to learn about classical, theories, classical media effect theories. It's a diffusion of innovation is one of the classical, very important media effect theories, and I suggest that why don't you memorize his categorization of the population into 5 groups. If I have time, I could ask you questions. Actually, the questions is actually composed 20 questions asking you your personality. Your personality, what category you belong to. In terms of a number of questions, you say yes. But we're gonna skip that one. That takes too much time. Asking 20 questions and then counted how many you answered yes, and then I see how many students actually belong to the innovator and early majority, like that. I did it many times in the previous study, the semesters. Most of the time, college students, undergraduate college students belong to right here, early adopters. You are probably early adopters. I know. Some of you don't like new technologies. I don't know. How many of you actually still use, older phones, not smartphone? Okay, raise your hands. Okay, 1, 2, 3, right? Among the 60 students, only 3 students actually. I say that deny, adopting new technology, new devices. According to Rogers' data right here, laggard. But laggard is a really negative means, but I don't think it is really negative. I still just, like traditional communication channels, or, I don't like the new, so rapidly changing, technology devices. I want to just keep my pace, right? So you have your own ideas, but whatever Rogers divided the pupils according to personality in terms of speed of adoption of the new devices. Rogers divided the populations into 5 groups like this. Okay? And the division of the 5 groups is sometimes depends on genders and education levels and income levels and personality. Okay? So a lot of reasons involving decision of the 5 groups right here. But I'm going to say that the new technology in the process of the adoptions is actually new device adopted by innovator groups for the very first time. And then as the time goes on, the diffusion of process is wider and fast to the group of early adoptions among their populations. And then early majority and late majority and the laggard. According to the previous study, college students, most of you belong to early adopters or at least early majorities. Like my grandmothers who live in the very small county of the southern, the Korea, actually she doesn't have the phone, mobile phone. Probably belong to right here, Lagos. But I'm not biting her. She still is okay. She love traditional way. She doesn't need any mobile phones. But that's still different the evaluation. But Rogers actually divide these 5 groups. Okay, so when I ask the questions, this is the most popular theories of the diffusion theories. So I ask it's called the bell-shaped curve. Okay, bell-shaped curve. So if I ask, hey, what is the bell-shaped curve of the diffusion theories? You have to draw this and then talk about 5 groups and then what that means. Okay, that's the at least you have to know about this bell-shaped curve theories of the diffusions.
What do you mean by predisposed to be
Innovator?
Yeah, like what does that phrase mean? Predisposed to be innovator?
You know what? As you know, the innovator is really, in terms of personality, is really willing to adopt very new device, very, compared to other groups. It's always just it's called the innovator. The innovator, innovations. Innovators really led to innovations. They love to innovate. So they're willing to accept a new technology. They're willing to accept a new device.
So it's not like the person can make this.
Yes. Person to buy new products or person to accept a new device or values, whatever. So this is really, easily change their way of live, their way of to communicate. So, like in Korean we say 혁신자, all right? 혁신자. It's very, like to 혁신, the innovations. And then early adopters more likely the second groups. They are following. Not as much as innovator, but still they belong to really adopt fast and changing, and the sometimes lives and in adoption, in process of adoption of new device and new technologies. That's we say early adopters. So according to a previous study, a lot of college students and the young generation, 20s and early 30s, and high income levels, and relatively the males groups, not the female groups, males groups, and the white collar occupations is more likely to be early adopters or early majorities. Make sense? So whatever, I'm saying that Rogers actually divide 5 groups. It's called bell-shaped curve. Now, this one is another very important and popular theory. It's called the S-curve, okay? The second one is a bell-shaped curve. This is the S-curve theories of the diffusions. Okay. Now, this dimension is number of percentage of adoptions, and the other dimension is actually time. Okay? So as the time goes, the number of the adoptions is actually change like this. Very slowly increased, okay? Very slowly increased, and then at certain points, it's very rapidly increased, and then finally slowly declines. Okay, guys, just remember, S-curve like this, as time goes on, slowly increased, and then at a certain point, rapidly increased, and then finally, at the third stage, slowly declines. Okay, I'll give you examples of TV, all right? TV. TV actually appeared in the 1920s. In 1920s, TV emerged as one of the media, right? One of the media. And then people just slowly adopted TV until the 1950s. TV was not a dominant media until 1950s. Newspaper and radio were #1 media until 1950s. So TV is like this. 1920 and 1950s. Okay? And then 1950s, TV became #1 medium and rapidly growing until the 1990s, right here. 1990s. 1990s when the internet became the most important medium in our lives. So TV was very rapidly growing medium until 1990s when the internet became the dominant mediums. So this is actually 3 different stages. TV, like this way. So TV is something right here. Almost 100%. Number percentage of adoption, 100%. It's, I don't know, most of the Korean housewives have the TV, right? So it's like certain points right here, TV. So what about the internet? 1990s, internet is slowly adopted by peoples, and probably 2000, from the adoption of the World Wide Web, and the internet became the commercialized, and we go to the right here, rapidly growing media. The internet became the rapidly growing media last 2 decades, a couple of decades, comparing the TV. And diffused very rapidly, and then now somewhere right here, second stage, somewhere right here, internet. What are the newspapers right here? Newspapers actually started in the 19th century, 1860s, something like that, and then slowly become the dominant medium, and then rapidly growing since 1950s when TV became the dominant newspaper and radio slowing down. Okay, so I draw over the times all the media, okay? All the media. All media. I will explain the all media in terms of the history of the developments by rate of adoptions of the largest theories. I'm going to say that 1860s, It's very, important years. We say the newspaper and radio actually started. And then 1920s, it's an introduction of the TV. And 1950s is actually TV became the dominant mediums. 1990s, it's actually a specific year of the introduction of the internet. In 2010s, the social media became the very important media today. So I have the time right this way. And diffusions according to Rogers. Now it's drawing, okay, S-curve, like this way. Okay, this is a newspaper and the radio. And TV. And internet and social media. Okay. Most of the time, if we trace back the developments of each media technologies, the diffusion of the technology, the diffusion of the media is follow the S-curve from the like this, slow increase, rapid increase, and slow down. This kind of S-curve patterns happens like a TV and radio and newspaper and TV and internet and social media like this. That's the observation by Rogers. And then he suggests rate of adoption theories. It's as one of the grand theory diffusion of innovations. One thing I want to point today, when we explain this kind of a curve, you have to know this. Always following the patterns. The TV is right here. When TV became the dominant right here, this points, radio, the traditional media, radio and newspaper started down. In other words, new technology take over the power of the dominance after beating the old and traditional media markets. You make sense? 1950s, actually TV became dominant, and then at the same time, the traditional media, radio and newspaper started down. 1990s, internet became the very important and the dominant medium, and then traditional TV started to lose their dominating powers, which they used to have. In 2005, now it's 2005 or 2010, is now most of people mention. Now a lot of people say they're social media. Now they talking about social media, right? Everybody talking about social media. So when social media, perceived as the most important dominant media, probably internet started to lose their dominating powers. They take over. New media take over dominating positions from the old media. Make sense? That's we call replacements. That's what we call replacement theories in media markets. Okay. You know what? This is YouTube video clips. And it's almost the same content, same, the things, what I told. And why don't you, watch the video clips to understand better about the diffusion of innovations? And especially this is actually presentation by education departments. So just to think about, what kind of, the things is taught right here, diffusion of innovation in the education field. Just the watch and very good video clips to me.
Technology, especially digital technology, continues to be regarded as a considerable innovation in education, and still today, 3 decades after initial introduction, its use is anything but universal or uniform. What's important to recognize is that this almost constant introduction of succession of digital technologies represents change, deep fundamental change. How change occurs in a community, or how innovation spreads within a group of people, is a complex process, and how we look at it will have as much effect on what we see as what we choose to look at. In your educational setting, look around you. Is there digital technology present? How long has it been there? Is there new technology coming in? Are people talking about new devices, new uses, new software, new sites? What are their reactions to this? Is the technology being imposed by the employer or requested by the teaching staff? Is it sold by some organization or corporation, or selected and purchased by the users? Are we talking about diffusion or adoption? Is it always the same process? It's just 2 different perspectives, one from each pole. What's important is that when analyzing such a situation, we should eventually consider the process as a whole from both perspectives in order to understand it and to be able to work with it, whether from the perspective of the user, the administrator, or the support structure. Herbert Rogers posits that under certain average conditions, an innovation being advertised and sold would eventually spread itself within the population at a generally predictable rate, assuming, of course, that within this population, different people will choose to adopt this innovation at different times, and this will occur according to a random distribution. These are, first, the innovators, those who thrive on being the ones to initiate change, those with the new ideas. These individuals tend to be good, sometimes even enthusiastic communicators, but they also tend to be regarded by the general population as a little too far out there. The early adopters, though are keeners who keep close tabs on the innovators, they like the ideas and are willing to try things and take some risks. When these early adopters start demonstrating the advantages of the innovation of the technology, the majority who are careful people will start taking steps in a new direction. The more thoughtful ones first, and then the more skeptical will follow. Finally, there's a group that Rogers refers to as the laggards, and describes them as the most traditional people who tend to be critical of new ideas and prefer the old ways. They will adopt only when there's little choice or when the new idea becomes a traditional one. One idea that's resurfaced as of late is that the laggards can be described as actually comprised of 2 subgroups, the late adopters and the resistors. The ones who will not adopt the innovation and who will actively fight it.
Okay, most of the time we call the late adopters and the resistors, we call them laggards, in other words. And, that's actually, in total, it is 16% of the population belong to the very last groups. It's called the laggard. But this diagram is more specific categories right here, late adopters and resistors. It's actually another 60%. So this is actually, as I mentioned, the 2.5, 13.5, 34, 34, and another 16% of the population we called, okay? We call the 5 groups. So this is not important, actually, where you belong to, but the important thing is right here. Rogers suggests that diffusion or adoptions proceed from their innovators and then diffused over the other rest of the population as like this way. Okay? It's like this way. That's actually a bell-shaped curve, as I mentioned that.
These people actually play a role in the sense as they balance opinions. They can also slow down certain processes from moving too quickly. They will also bring open discussion. They will also bring potential refutations to conjectures that would otherwise be too freely adopted. When these groups are then added up as time goes on, Rogers gives us a model that can be used to predict where the next group of adopters will follow and at what rate. This is fine when all of it goes according to plan, when all the conditions are just right. But what if in your context, a specific technology spreads faster than anticipated?
Like the internet, very short times. It's very diffused, faster.
Can you tell why this is? What is or are the causes of this acceleration? Can you tell what the effects of this rapid change would be on the adopters and the users themselves? Are you ready for it? Are they ready for it? How will you deal with it? What if the process is slower than something like it? What if the technology is being adopted slower in your specific context and it is delayed?
Like the newspapers, radios. It differs a very long time, right?
Can you see if the adoption rate is affected equally by all these groups, within all these groups? Can you examine the communication between these groups? Is it an increase or a resistance or a weakened innovation push? These models and theories all examine different aspects of this process. Therefore, by definition, none of them give the whole picture. From the diffusion perspective, Rogers looks at adoption of innovation as going through 5 major phases: knowledge, persuasion, decision, implementation, and confirmation. Hall and Hort suggest a user perspective, looking at what the concerns are at each of 7 stages of their model.
Very similar models.
Looks at the actual different levels of use to determine the actual levels of adoption of the technology. And Davis, with his technology acceptance model, suggests that our perception of the usefulness of and the ease of use of the technology will affect how we eventually use and therefore adopt any new technology. Later iterations of his model have acknowledged that and have added that many external variables can and will affect these perceptions. To examine some of these variations, Donald Eli in there and have added that.
Okay, this is actually Rogers' diffusion of innovation. I said the very first stage, right? First, a small theory of the innovation theories, and then a lot of different approaches right here. One thing to just memorize this one. Davis Tom. This is very another popular explanations. So TOM stands for Technology Adoption Models. Technology Adoption Models by Davis. It adds a very similar theories of diffusion of innovation by Rogers. But according to this, very similar, right? Knowledge, persuasion, decision, implementations, and confirmations. The TOM models, right, your perceptions, is very similar, knowledge, right? Attitude, intentions, and actual system use. So, very similar, but Rogers more focus on individual decision process. Individual decision process in adopting new technology. Davis more focused on social systems, like Korea University, how they adopt new technologies. Korea, as one of the very advanced technology-savvy countries, how we adopt new devices. So Davis more focused on social systems. Rogers more focused on individual, innovative personality and characteristics. So, yeah.
Why is that pointing this way? Does that mean that there is 4 and they're all together lead to the final decision?
Right.
And the others is like steps.
No, actually, when we explain the Miri effects, we need, the first precondition is we have to adopt media, right? So before we talking about media effects, the people should accept the new technology and new media, right? That's, in terms of that procedure, media effect, the theories of media, as a media effect theories, Raja theory is a very important part of that. And then this is actually how people adopt new technology and new media before we measure how much effect size of the media. That's why I'm teaching this, okay? So these are 4 best examples how individual or how society adopt new technologies. And these are 4 very representative, the theories.
What I was after, like for the Roger,
Mhm.
there's like stages, like knowledge, birth, information, diffusion, illumination. There's like this 5
Stages and 5 phases, I must say,
Right.
distinct phase.
And what about David? Everyone's pointing that way. What does that mean?
Phase, perceptions. So the TAM, this one,
Yeah.
TAM stands for the technology adoption
Right.
models.
So it's not like process. It's not like steps.
The steps is actually sometimes distinct, but sometimes it take place at the same time, simultaneously. It's hard to recognize. Hard to recognize this stage is actually perception level. This stage is actually attitude levels. But this is just like models. But sometimes distinct stages, but sometimes take place at the same time, simultaneously. This is also the same thing. Sometimes knowledge, persuasion, procedure, implementation, confirmation just happen to one day. Make sense? But sometimes it takes years. It depends on. That's why S-curve, good questions right here.
Any external variables.
That's like this way.
The usefulness, the concerns are that
Just see. Yeah, this is actually the speed of the diffusions. It depends on how fast from the knowledge, perception, and the final decision, the actual confirmations. That depends on like this.
From the diffusion perspective, Rogers looks at adoption of innovation as going through 5 major phases.
All right.
The 90s related these external factors affecting how we perceive and adopt technology to conditions of change. Eli wanted to know what the conditions, what are the conditions that can make adoption of any new technology in education easier or more difficult. In his work, he finally listed 8 conditions that should exist or be created in order to facilitate the adoption of any new technology. Sufficient knowledge and skills. If you want someone to use or adopt the technology, they must possess the knowledge and the skills to do the job, to use the tool. They need the training to use these tools or techniques, otherwise the technology will sit and gather dust. Availability of resources. If the technology is not readily available, it will not become part of life. It will not become part of the environment. If this is not part of the regular, normal environment, it will not be used. Availability of time. Anyone needs time to learn, adapt, integrate, and reflect on the use of any new tool. One needs time to understand, integrate, or as Piaget puts it, accommodate and assimilate the technology and its use into the familiar ways of doing things. Reward or incentives. It's all about motivation, extrinsic or intrinsic motivation. The with of, the what's in it for me. This goes back to Maslow's basic needs theory. The technology has to bring me something personal. To find this for someone else could be at least, at the very least, very challenging, just asking a teacher. Participation. Any individual in a group where a specific technology is being suggested for use must have a sense of ownership of the innovation.
Okay, guys, this is not actually Raja's concepts, but Alice is another, important, scholars actually suggest that what kind of condition should be required, what kind of condition should be satisfied to change or to adopt new technology, and right here, sufficient knowledge and skills, availability of resources and time, and incentives and participations. These are some important requirements to change your attitude or change your technologies. Okay? So what about the Raja's talk about the conditions? Let's see. This is actually conditions from the Rogers. Hey, what kind of condition we need to adopt the new technology and new media right here? What kind of attributes of the new devices, new technology actually guarantee for people to adopt right here? The first one, trialability. Trialability. How much that technology can be tried or limit the base before adoptions. Trialability. So the higher trialability, the higher adoptions. Make sense? More high level of trialability. It's easily to try of the new technology. That's higher adoptions, guarantee higher adoptions. So more trialability need to be diffused. And the observability, and right here, offers observable result means observability is like this. I see many friends use new technology. I observe more people use new technology. That's easily adopt. That's observability. Okay? High level of observability, high level of the adoptions. That's observability. As a third condition from the Rogers, relative advantages. That should be correct, right? New technology should have relative advantages of traditional media and old technologies. More advantages, more adoptions. Make sense? Relative advantages. And complexity. Less complexity, more adoptions. In other words, more simplicity and more adoptions. So Rogers pointed that how much complicated, how much complex of the new technology is very important factors influence the decision of the adoptions. So I said right here, less complexity, okay? Less complexity and more simplicity. More simplicity. The last conditions for adoption of the new technology, Rogers pointed that compatibility. You know, compatibility, it's right here. How much compatible with existing practice and values. More compatibility, more adoptions. More compatibility and more diffusions. What does the more compatibility means? You know, one of the reasons I didn't buy iPhone or iPad in the United States when I visited last year, that's actually 100-volt system in the United States. In Korea, 220, right? Total different electronic systems. So I cannot buy that devices because not compatible United States and Korea, different electronic systems. That's the one reason. If compatible in 100 electronic system and 220 electronic system in Korea, that's real advantages to use new technology. You make sense? When you buy new programs, this program is actually working in microsystems. This program is working Apple systems. This program working for any other systems. That's high compatibilities. That's easily adopted by people. That's compatibilities. So Rogers pointed that these 5 conditions are very important factors, influence in the process of adoptions and process of the diffusion of the new technologies and new devices. Okay, make sense? Okay? All right. Any questions regarding 4? These 4 small theories of the diffusion of innovation, grand theories. I'll ask this question in final exam, definitely, because it's quite important. You have to know at least diffusion theories if you take media effect class. Okay? All right. Now it's moving on, another very similar theories, developments. This is a very easy one, okay? Very, easy to understand and easy to catch up. And I have only, several slides right here. Why don't you remember Daniel Lerner's name? He's a very famous scholar in the development paradigm of the media, especially his influential books. The title is actually right here, The Passing of a Traditional Society on a Turkish Village, published in 1958. And just to memorize that important books. And Daniel Lerner's, and like this way. Traditional society, past, change to the modern society through the very linear progress by media technologies. Daniel Lerner pointed that media technology changed traditional society to modern society. He argued that huge impact of the media. Huge impact of the media on social change from the traditional society to modern society. That's why Daniel Lerner is one of the important scholars, especially in the media effects. So what kind of concepts? Daniel Lerner's and another names, why don't you remember, development theory, Wilbur Schramm. Wilbur Schramm is very important scholars, and they talk about high expectation upon the apparent success in the media's role as propaganda tools in the World War I and World War II. And right here, communications, media brings social and economic improvements generally in developing countries. They argue that that's we call development theories. That's we call development theories. This term, magic multiplier. That's, very famous symbol, very famous expressions when you talk about development theories. Media and media technology play a role as magic multipliers in the process of the developments of nations. So mass media technologies, especially TV, in 1950s and 1960s, played as magic multiplier of the developments of the benefits. So when you talk about media effects, especially media technology, very old, long time and ongoing debates, paradigm right here, development paradigm and modernization paradigm versus cultural imperialism and media imperialisms. Okay? This is a very old one and still going on debates when you talk about impact of the media and impact of the technology and the developments. Is anyone knows about cultural imperialisms Is there anyone can explain what cultural imperialism is?
I think it means that one culture is going to tell other cultures and that culture is better.
So cultural imperialism, scholars say that's good or that's bad?
That's bad.
That's bad. So more negative side. They stand on more negative sides. Okay, that actually points to the cultural imperialism. Actually, I didn't post this, last slides in the portal sites. So why don't you write? And there is actually dominant development theories, but still opposing side. Opposite side. A lot of scholars say cultural imperialism and media imperialism. Not development theories. Lerner and Wilbur Schramm, right? Lerner and Wilbur Schramm. I mentioned that. It's two scholars. Actually, you have to memorize. John Tanison and Herbert Schiller. So cultural imperialism right here is the use of political and economic power to spread the values and habits of the powerful foreign countries like United States and European countries at the expense of the native cultures, at the expense of the developing countries.
One example I think of is like U.S. and there are trying to dominate Hawaii in history. Like Hawaiians, they didn't have that much. They were very good influences from the U.S. And then.
So you're talking about Hawaii, right? Okay.
U.S. trying to dominate Hawaii. Would that kind of an example?
Not really. It depends on which side you stand. Like, if you like the Starbucks, okay, for example, Starbucks. If you like the Starbucks coffee, so probably the imports of the Starbucks into the Korea from the United States, you like that, because I like the Starbucks coffee, but if you are a coffee businessman, you have coffee restaurant or coffee shops, coffee stores in Korea, but Starbucks take over the coffee market in Korea, become the dominant positions. You have to close your stores, right? In that case, probably you don't like the imports of the Starbucks from the United States to the Korea, right? So it depends on how you evaluate. But I want to say that sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. We have to know both, stance. Good side and dark side. A good side, we say they're development theories. Dark side, that's imperialism. So, define cultural imperialism as the sum of the process where society brought into modern world systems, how its dominating stratum is attached, I like this, pressed, intentionally or unintentionally, pressed, enforced, and sometimes bribed into shaping social institutions to correspond. Sometimes intentional, but sometimes unintentional effects of the international business groups, for example, and even media technologies. So always it depends on which side you stand. Probably your perspective influence how you evaluate. Okay, how you evaluate the impact of the media. So probably I can ask the questions right here. Hey guys, you evaluate the impact of the CNN or impact of the Facebook or impact of tweeters in terms of the development theories and imperialism theories. So you can talk about really benefits of the tweeters based on the development theories. Sometimes you talk about really negative impact of the tweeters based on the imperialisms. So I'd like to suggest that you have to know both. You have to know different perspective when you evaluate the impact of the new technology. Okay, that's it. That's actually I want to have the lecture today. So you have to know diffusion and developments today, all right?